But still on the discussion, joining us on the program is a Nigerian professor of political economy and management expert. He is a fellow of the Institute of Management of Consultants of Nigeria and a former presidential candidate. Thank you so much, Professor Patrick Utomi, for joining us on the program at this time.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to join you.
Good afternoon. And now I'm sure you've heard all the stories now. We've had Chibok, Dapchi, Kankara, Kagara, and now Jangebe. Does it seem that the federal government has lost control of security apparatus to handle these bandits? Because it seems like the bandits release when they please and then take when they please.
Well, Nigeria is in a civil war. I will make all kinds of excuses about what the reality is, but the truth is that we entered the moral equivalence of a war a while back, and right now is beyond the moral equivalence. We are in a civil war. Just check the numbers. More people get killed, violently killed in Nigeria every day today, and die from known wars in Iraq, Iran, even Syria. So to live in the illusion that this is peacetime is a very, very sad way of capturing reality. The truth is that we are in a state of war. And there is a way that countries respond to war. When you are in a state of war, you call up reserves, bring back the old generals and all of those people. You create a war cabinet. You deepen your intelligence. Now, there's hardly anything that happens in this world that good intelligence won't give you an insight into the possibility of. But even staying more strategically focused, I'd like to suggest that more than 20 years ago, I saw today, not because I was clever, but because I read to people who were clever. In 1999, an American called Robert Kaplan wrote a book titled The Coming Anarchy. And he looked at the possibility that West Africa could descend into anarchy from cleavages, ethnic, religious, economic, and political cleavages. And he went as far as, in fact, predicting that a city in Nigeria called Jos was a seeming epicenter from which this descent into anarchy could take place. I was alarmed when I listened to him being interviewed on CNN. I was actually in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia when I watched that interview. I immediately ordered copies of the book. When I returned to Nigeria, I sent a copy to the DG of the SSS, who was a friend of mine, or who is a friend of mine, DG who was at the time. And that book went up to the National Security Advisor, General Ali Guzo. I know that ultimately even former President Babangida got a hold of a copy of the book. And basically what I urged them was to look at trends and realize that these suggest something. The gentleman, Kaplan, who wrote that book, had written a book titled Balkan Ghosts on Yugoslavia under Tito. And he had predicted what eventually turned out to happen when Tito died, the disintegration of the Balkans and all the wars. So I said to these people of authority, please do something so that we will prevent this kind of thing from happening. Well, sadly, just much of what Kaplan predicted has happened. Jos became a starting point of these clashes. The Middle Belt became the hot button place, and it has progressively gone that way. So I don't accept excuses. There is enough intelligence that told us this was coming. We could have nipped it in the bud, but in a manner of speaking, we almost aided and abetted its coming. it is tragic for Nigeria that we have allowed to emerge conditions that will deepen poverty, because all of these clashes cannot be taking place. The farms are unsafe, and we think farmers will go in and grow things, and we will have food to eat and produce that will become part of manufacturing. It's bad enough that we are already the poverty capital of the world. These unfortunate developments can only worsen the situation. And so we cannot treat it with gloves, kids' gloves. We must recognize that we are in a huge war. So we need the reservists up. We need a war cabinet. We need a president briefing the country twice a day, not even every day. You saw what Donald Trump was doing when they had simple problems that were considered threatening, almost warlike. He briefed the American people every day. Imagine if the American state, was in the kind of circumstance the Nigerian state is in today. They would demand 3 hourly briefings from the White House and at least 1 or 2 every day from the president. But the Nigerian people can't even see their president. And so they have to engage in all kinds of speculations, like some of you were doing just before you came to me, about who is there, who is not there, who is alive, who is not alive, who is in coma, who is this. That those kinds of speculations come when we just don't organize effectively. I don't believe those rumors, but I just don't think that we are doing enough to dispel those rumors.
All right, Professor. Sorry. Okay, you've given lots of intelligence gathering over the years and things that have been predicted concerning this insurgencies in the Northeast. Do you also see this as a targeted attack on the educational system in Nigeria, especially in the North?
Well, it's an irony, because Boko Haram just found a more brilliant strategy. Boko Haram, his book is forbidden, don't go to school. Without now shooting, they're stopping school. Just by threatening to kidnap people, the schools are being shut down. But they can be put to shame in so many different ways. First of all, people can be educated from their living rooms. And most of our children who are abroad have been going to university for more than 1 year now, virtually. So it is possible to do that, but do we have the infrastructure and the technology to do that? That's a big question. And that comes from the failure to invest in education in our country. Through the years, we don't have the capacity to do that well, but we can begin somehow, somewhere. Secondly, if we know that there is this level of inclination to raid schools, there's also technology. We can protect the schools using very simple drone technology, and we can have the schools that are boarding schools get better fortified, and with technology supporting, and an alert system, we can prevent these kinds of things from happening. But it just seems to me, and I don't know enough, sitting where I'm sitting, maybe the defense minister knows more, but it just seems to any intelligent observer that we are not doing enough in terms of the possibilities. If we were doing that, I think that it's possible to protect major schooling facilities with a combination of technology and other things that we can introduce.
All right, lastly, before I let you go, I know that the federal government has said no to negotiations with bandits after lots of people clamored against that plan to negotiate with bandits. But let's look at this man now that came out of nowhere, this Islamic cleric, Sheikh Gumi, who is now saying that bandits should not be classified as criminals, saying that when you negotiate with the bandits, that's when we've had less abductions and all that. Do you see this man in a position to be giving out such statements and even going forward to negotiate with the bandits on behalf of supposedly the federal government?
Well, I am not going to be evaluating the man and what he thinks or does not think, which is really for me irrelevant to the subject under discussion. What is important is that where you pay kidnappers and negotiate with bandits, it just only increase the appetite. We saw it in Europe in the 60s and 70s, the Red Brigade, Italy and Germany were just rife with kidnappings. And in Italy, they made one of the most brilliant legislations that I can think of. And they made negotiating with kidnappers a crime. So if you negotiate with them, you are committing a criminal offense. And that's how it stopped it in Italy. And of course, Europe put all its resources into fighting the bandits. Well, they didn't call them bandits then. I don't remember what they called them, but they were kind of revolutionary groups, the Red Brigade, the Italian Mafia even got involved because it was lucrative business. When you create a lucrative kind of business, you know, organized crime tends to find a way to go into it. It pays more than the more complicated things that they used to do. So I think that we just have to dismiss any thought about negotiating with. Look, I actually find it warped logic to compare, say, what happened in the Niger Delta, which was a people's rights movement. There was a purpose. There's injustice. We say this injustice, we're fighting it. And that created militancy. I didn't support the way we solved the militancy problem, but Nigeria was desperate to earn revenues from crude oil because the oil fields were shut down, and they just hacked up that arrangement and started putting money in the pockets of militants, which has created a problem today because we have created a culture of easy money. So the things that can sustain progress are not taking place because people are used to youth, they get money. They go and buy SUV. They are not producing. They will suffer for it. The Niger Delta will pay a dear price for it for 1 or 2 generations. And now we want to, the Niger Delta youth learn to drive SUV for doing nothing. Now some northern youth want to drive SUVs for the same kinds of. Nigeria is just going to be a miserable country because of all these kinds of thoughtless responses to issues. And so I'm hoping that we ignore the gentleman that you have talked about, because he doesn't seem to have history on his side in terms of how countries have dealt with these matters. And by the way, you see, this thing by the day gets more and more irritating. Minister of Defense says, defend yourself without guns. Defend yourself against people who are armed to the teeth. And we say, oh, is it right? Does it make sense? And then people choose to defend themselves. They create a network, Southeast Security Network. And then you bring the army in to fight the people who are organizing to defend themselves. What logic is all of that? I think we have, first of all, to be honest in terms of the policies that we're discussing if we're going to make progress with solving the security problems.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Utomi, for shedding so much light on the issues of insecurity. But I'm sure you had the news that Kagara students were allegedly released, and of course they have been, or rather they are in Mina. Would you say this as a thumbs up for the government, even though the controversies of how they were released is still unknown to the public?
Every life that is safe is a plus to humanity. Whether it is thumbs up to government or not, I'm not so sure, because if the way they are trying to get a thumbs up is to create more problems, then it's left to you to decide whether it should be a thumbs up.
Thank you so much, Professor Utomi, for shedding more light on insecurity issues, and we do hope that relevant stakeholders take note of this. Thank you for joining us on the program.